Hello everyone, I hope you're having an awesome day today as always, and welcome to our review of this piece of supercharged insanity that is the Kawasaki Z H2.
This is one of those motorcycles that leaves me speechless, not only because of how breathtakingly good it is, but also how its on-spec performance doesn't seem to correlate with the way the Kawasaki Z H2 actually feels to ride, at all. But before we get into it though, we're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of October, so please make sure to hit that subscribe button, and of course don't forget to leave a like and comment about what you think of the Kawasaki Z H2. Alright, now the best way I can describe the way I feel about this monster is to talk about the specs. The 2021 Kawasaki Z H2 is sporting an epic supercharged 998cc inline-4 straight from the legendary Ninja H2, producing 197 horsepower at the crank and a lovely 137 Nm of torque, which translates to 101 in foot-pounds. That's pretty good on paper, but you may have already noticed that 1-litre sport bikes are producing well over 200 horsepower nowadays, with the European version of the Honda Fireblade producing 215 horsepower on spec, which doesn't make the Z H2 sound all that impressive. Not to mention that the naturally aspirated Kawasaki ZX-10R of this year is producing more horsepower than the supercharged Z H2, although it's only by a few ponies. Of course, that doesn't paint the whole picture though, as the Z H2 is producing significantly more torque than its sport bike counterparts, which we'll refer back to in a moment. Whoa. The top speed of the Z H2 also leaves something to be desired, topping out at a snail pace, 175 miles an hour. Now, I am joking of course, that is by no means a slow speed, but I like to think that no one would come anywhere close to that on the street. But again, when comparing to litre sport bikes, some of which can now reach speeds well over 190 miles an hour, you'd have thought that the Z H2 would have a lot more to give. However, it's easy to compare this beast to sport bikes, as it's closer to a 1000cc sport bike in terms of performance than its actual competitors in the super naked market. Let's compare the Z H2 to its super naked rivals. The closest alternatives to the Z H2 are KTM's 1290 Super Duke R and Yamaha's MT-10, with the Super Duke producing 180 horsepower at the crank and 140 Nm of torque, and the MT-10 producing 160 horsepower and 111 Nm of torque. So it would appear that the Z H2 is at the top thanks to that supercharger. However, one area in which it's not doing so good is in the weight department. The Z H2 is a true heavyweight, weighing in at 239 kilograms wet, which is considerably heavier than either the Super Duke at 189 kilos and the MT-10 at 210. And sport bikes of the same class come anywhere near around the 200 kilogram mark, which turns out makes the Z H2 closer to the weight of a ZZR 1400 than a 1-litre. Although even with its extra timber, the Z H2 can certainly keep up with the likes of 1000 plus supersports, performing a recorded 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds and a standing quarter mile in 10.1 seconds. So at this point you may be thinking, what's so special and breathtaking about it, if it performs the same as other bikes in this class? Or why did I buy a Z H2 when I could have bought a ZX-10R or a Hayabusa even for the same price? It's here where the Z H2 confuses and astounds me, as yes, the specs and performance are nothing special compared to many other motorcycles in this class. However, the way it feels to ride really doesn't match the spec sheet whatsoever. Just the sheer aggressiveness when accelerating, and the way it wants to pull wheelies every time you give it over 50% throttle. It makes the Z H2 feel literally breathtaking. in the sense that it leaves you gasping for air after every pull, a similar feeling to when you're riding on a fast roller coaster. It's simply a really fast motorcycle in the ways that matter on the street, but it will be a lot to handle. Even if you've ridden a Hayabusa or ZZR 1400 in the past, the ZH2 feels like a step above that. Any of you that ride or have ridden a KTM 1290 Super Duke can probably relate to what I'm saying here. Even though it's a heavier bike, it really doesn't feel that way when you ride it. The first time I had a go on a ZH2, I genuinely thought that it was as light as my old CBR 600RR that weighed just under 200 kilos. I really don't know how Kawasaki have made a motorcycle that weighs 239 kilos feel like a 600, and the ease in which the ZH2 throws that weight around is just insane, in both acceleration and cornering. It is honestly one of the most thrilling motorcycles I have ever ridden. It was this feeling on my test ride back in July that made me fall in love with it, and I knew I just had to have one, somehow. This was even before I found out how much tech Kawasaki has packed inside the ZH2. It is truly a 2021 motorcycle with features such as cruise control, launch control, 3 power modes, 3 traction control levels, a lovely full colour TFT dash, assist and slipper clutch, and quick shifter, and of course that wicked supercharger. All of these features are really nice to have, but don't worry, they don't take anything away from the riding experience whatsoever. If anything, they actually add to it. The TFT dash is bright and clear with all the info you need, including a gear indicator, lean angles, and there are 2 different styles of dashboards that you can choose from, one of which has a boost pressure gauge. It's so cool. The 3 rider and power modes are surprisingly useful. Not just the rain, road and sport modes, but the manual adjustment seriously changes the way the ZH2 rides and how aggressive it is. So if you are someone that has ridden a 600 Supersport or even a 650 parallel twin, the low and medium power modes restrict the power output to 50 and 75% respectively, meaning that if you've never been on a litre motorcycle before, the low power mode will break you in really easily. So you can slowly get used to the way the power feels as you step up the power modes. Just keep in mind that the full power mode with traction control off is just insanity. Far more aggressive than my ZZR 1400, which again doesn't make sense to me considering how much more torque the ZZR has over the ZH2. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our in-depth comparison between the ZZR 1400 and ZH2 coming in the near future. Going back to the ZH2 features, the quick shifter is amazing. It really saves your clutch hand from aching during busy city traffic. That's not to say that the ZH2 has a heavy clutch, the opposite in fact. It actually has a really light and easy clutch to operate, even if you didn't have quick shift at your disposal. Cruise control has also been one of my favourite features of this motorcycle that I didn't even think I needed, especially on those longer rides and highway journeys. The launch control is so cool. It really does help you get off the line quickly, and you can set it quickly at a red light if you want to flex on any of your riding buddies. It really keeps the front end down when you're pinning the throttle back. You'll find yourself doing well over 100 miles an hour in under 10 seconds. It's a pretty sweet feature. I did a video recently testing launch control and power modes on this very ZH2, so make sure to go check that one out afterwards. Now moving swiftly back onto how the ZH2 rides, as with most naked bikes, it's a fantastic commuter. Filters through traffic with ease, buckets of fun, and very comfortable to ride with its upright seating position and high handlebars. The ZH2 also slows down just as well as it speeds up, with its dual 320mm disc Brembo brakes at the front and a single 220mm disc at the rear, combined with adjustable shower forks and rear shock. I will say that the ride feels a little harder than I was expecting on the stock settings, so I will probably look to adjusting mine in the near future. However, if you have an extra £2,500 to spend, you could buy the SE model of the ZH2 that has electronically adjustable suspension for quick and easy access, although it's not necessary in my opinion, as apart from the suspension, they are the same motorcycle. Speaking of money, a brand new 2021 ZH2 will set you back an eye-watering £16,000, with the SE model starting at £18,500. Not cheap. Of course, they can be had for less on the used market at around the £13,000 mark. However, if you're looking to take finance out on a used ZH2, you might as well look at new ones, as the interest rate on nearly new used bikes will be significantly higher. At least that's what I found in my own experience. So don't be afraid to look at new prices. Kawasaki Finance may give you a better deal on a new ZH2 than the third-party finance company can on a used one from 2020. The main issues I have surrounding this motorcycle are the costs involved. You can expect maintenance costs to be anywhere around the £200 mark annually, and man, this thing loves drinking fuel. I've ridden this ZH2 nearly 500 miles and I've spent nearly £100 in fuel. That's filling the 19-litre tank 7 times over the course of a month, which is on average at current fuel prices £14.28 per fill-up. Of course, I'm not draining the tank empty before I fill her up again. Doing my napkin maths here for a second, £100 of fuel currently gets you around 77 litres. That over 500 miles adds up to 6.5 miles per litre of fuel, or that's 29.5 miles per gallon. It's actually more like 28 mpg, as I haven't quite reached 500 miles yet. And look, I know I don't ride the ZH2 conservatively, but the mpg I'm getting compared to the stated 43 mpg average on spec is absurd in my opinion. Most of the riding I do are city and country roads, so maybe I need to do a road trip at some point to find out the actual MPG this motorcycle is capable of. But it does go to show that the MPG on spec may be nowhere near what you actually get if you're commuting to and from work. Just keep in mind that it is a performance-oriented motorcycle, so in most cases it will prioritise performance over economy, and that's absolutely fine by me. And one good thing about the maintenance is the service intervals for the ZH2 after the first year are at every 7,600 miles or yearly, and the valve clearance checks at every 15,000 miles, which is actually pretty good. I did have some trouble getting a reasonable insurance premium for the ZH2 also, mainly because it was brand new. However, I explain all that in another video that I've linked in the top corner for you. In conclusion, the 2021 ZH2 is yet another masterpiece from Kawasaki. It packs the most literal punch that you can get from a Super Naked, combined with stunning modern looks and all the luxury features offered in the latest sport bikes and that badass supercharger. It almost blurs the lines between a sport bike and a naked, with its ultra comfortable ergonomics and sport bike-like performance. It is an absolute blast to ride, even giving my ZZR 1400 a run for its money. I'm curious about riding a 1290 Super Duke in future to compare the feel and performance to the ZH2, but that'll be a topic for another video. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this supercharged journey I've had so far on the ZH2. As always, let us know what you think of the ZH2 in the comments below. And if you've been on a Super Duke, be sure to let me know what it's like, as I'd love to hear what you think of it. Anyway, as mentioned at the beginning, please make sure to subscribe to help us reach our 1,000 subscriber goal by the end of October. Thanks again for watching, we'll catch you in the next one.